Build King doing a really interesting move this early on. The one shots generally have, stuff that carries over to the officials, but it's really intriguing when if you go back and look at a one shot and find things that the author had planned that they end up kind of bringing in later, or ideas that are just done very differently. I mentioned in my previous review of Chapter 8 that the reveal of their house beast being named 2x4 was extremely intriguing because in the one shot, I think they were called anima structures. It's the whole living houses, but there was only one build king, and it was named 2x4. It was the main character's house beast that he was with, and then it's revealed that this character, it's hard to call them characters, but I mean he has a name, he's got lore, so their house beast 2x4 is a character, and that he used to be a pretty much just a monster. Like, he used to just go around causing havoc all over the world, and you see there's like this panel right here. This is also really badass. Like, the design looks actually really cool, and it's a chunk different than what 2x4 was in the manga, or sorry, the one shot of the manga. And then this one, it's still really cool. You see like the chimney is like this cannon. You see a nuke in the background, this little nuke. He's got like a spike of part of like the roof on his right fist. So, that's probably like some badass piercing attack. It actually looks really good. And I was happy to see that this whole scene, because this is one of those parts where you can use this to, show somebody that, a hype of the series that might get them interested. Because I've mentioned the series I think needs a good fight just to demonstrate the action that will be in this manga from this dude's previous series, Toriko. And I know the level of brutality he can get in some fights, and in just badass and epic he can make them. So I want that to show up in Build King, but this is a good example of how he can just hype something up in general. Like, this was a house that was brought in through originally like a gag, and then seemed like it was going to be their kind of companion as the story progressed. But it's like, oh no, this used to be a world threatening monster, and it was that much of a problem at one point long ago. I thought that was just a really interesting early plot twist, and I'm curious to know how he's going to handle that. But I mean, because on top of that, we know that, the house beasts used to be, humongous threats. They were very dangerous creatures of their world, and then the main cast managed to befriend one, so I'm very, very interested to see where Shimabukuro takes this. Also, the cover page is really cool, too. I like they had a raft with, a little tree house and had peaches on it. I think that, stuff like that is such a really just nice design in just a basic, just visually just a very basic thing to look at that's fun. And actually, I gotta use that I'm gonna use that page as well to just kind of show off the designs. I actually really liked Under the Water too. You can see a city that's just submerged. Again, I've been pushing the agenda. I've been slacking a little bit lately, but I'm gonna get back to it. I'm trying to get more people to try out this manga. I've gotten some more people into it though. I've gotten a couple people I've been talking to. They've really enjoyed it. I mean, the chapter starts out after that whole sequence of talking about 2x4, and you see a hotel train. Think how cool that would be. I actually really like trains. I think trains would be way cooler if they were done in more extravagant ways, because we got cruise ships. Think about that. We have big boats that are literally floating hotels, so the idea of a train hotel isn't far off. It just looks like it'd be way harder to execute when you see, especially when you see, rails that are not even, on the ground. They're just pretty much built over nothing. Fictional crazy feats that they can do. But, the idea of, a hotel train, I wonder, how you would have to do that to make it successful in real life. But it's so cool in concept. I feel like if you managed to do one, it would only be one, and it was, I couldn't even imagine how people really kind of structure that all out. But I really like stuff like that in the series. When you just have something like this, it's very basic in the concept of it, but it's so weird to think about, and it's just so cool. I mean, I don't know anyone who wouldn't like to at least see something like this exist. And it's not absurdly out of the realm of possibilities. It's not like a space train, but it's still pretty fictiony, badass, and fun. but realistic at the same time. I feel like it would cost way more power than it could than it could possibly bring in. Like the amount of train force you'd have to have in order to push a machine like that. Again, it's very fun just to think about. But after that point, we see the reveal of the group that they're all going to be joining Build On, and this was important for the one shot because 2x4 in the one shot he was the Build King, whereas in Build King, the actual manga, 2x4 seemed to be some villain of the past, some big calamity. And then in the one-shot Build On, the Build Union were like the bad guys. Whereas in the official, they're like the, whatever they're going to be tied to. Like, kind of like, it's a little, I was thinking really hard of what to compare it to. Because, like, my go-tos, you obviously have something like Fairy Tail, but it's like, that it's not the idea of a guild. Closer to, like, the Eden Zero guild, where it's more of like a job hub. But I think the best way to kind of describe what it is for their world is kind of like in Hunter x Hunter, like getting your I can't remember what their overall the Hunters Association, I think it was. It's kind of the same thing. They're like, you have to have, they got this big group of all these people with all these different general like feats and abilities and their own different skills and how they kind of work together to be contracted into whatever jobs and issues they're set up. You essentially have that, but with construction of buildings. And I can't wait to see some of these designs, because we see this silhouette of a bunch of characters when it's describing Build Union. And at first I was like, oh, well, maybe it's just one of those times where you see silhouettes and they don't always end up being characters. But you see Nana and this character that's introduced named Akana in there. The one on the bottom right of the panel, this dude who's standing on a shovel, I hope that's a character. Because, like, some of these others are cool, and you have some pretty big meathead looking characters. Like, there's a guy in the back with, like, a crocodile hunter hat, a mustache, and he looks like he's, like, 10 feet tall and probably, like, 6 feet wide. But this short dude on the shovel, I think, looks really cool. He's got that lean buff kind of setup that can match up with Tonkatchi. I think the tank top is really cool looking. The wild horns, and he's got the shovel. I actually think this character is really cool. I hope this is going to be an official character at some point. But I am excited to see any of these guys, because regardless if they're going to be, like, silly or they're going to be badass, I think they're going to be really well placed in that. Like, we got this dude during the chapter, like, when they ended up getting to their the Build On, like, headquarters, what they called Build On Garden. Actually, that sounds actually kind of nice when you say it on Build On Garden. It doesn't sound like, oh, it's Build Union, Build On. It sounds like some French word or something. I don't know. But it does look really cool. I like the odd, futuristic-looking buildings. The cannon that it's, like, built alongside. I feel like something badass will eventually be involved in that. Maybe it's, like, where they practice construction tools or something. I don't know. Because it looks like at the end of the chapter we're going to see some fighters soon. I can't wait for that. And then on top of that, we had Nana. I keep calling him Renga. It's just because of their hair. When I see their hair, it somehow reminds me of the other one every single time. We don't have enough of either of them to really separate them as well. Like, for the most part, up until the recent chapter, we mostly just knew Tonkatchi. We had a little bit of Renga and Nana, but not a whole lot. And then now we have Cork. I was actually really happy to see Cork went along with them. I was going to be really bummed out if she was not part of the main cast. But regardless of if she ever becomes a fighter or what, I really like her so far. And I think that she provides a good, like, setup for the three characters, because Renga isn't a fighter either. I feel like Renga could still learn how to fight to a degree, but and Cork as well. But obviously Tonkatchi is way ahead of him. Meanwhile, you have Nana run into this girl, Akana, and, like, her group. Holy shit, dude, these girls are like 10 plus feet tall. Because Nana has to be at least, I'd guess, I don't know, like maybe like 5'10". Like, he has to be at least somewhat upper tall. We don't know, like, comparative-wise, because, like, he's only hung out around short people. And I don't think we have any official ways of like, official heights. Maybe we'll get that eventually. But he seems to me like somebody who just isn't all the way at his peak height. Like, he hasn't reached that sudden giant leap where you're, like, an 8-foot jacked monster. Kind of like JoJo characters. Well, early JoJo characters. But that's the way that, Shimabukuro did in Toriko. I guess at some point you double in size and just become extremely muscular. But these girls all look tall, and even Akane is the shortest of her group because her friend directly behind her, you can see in like again like direct comparison, and she's like a full head taller. So these chicks, very interesting introductions in the series. You just have this group of extremely tall girls coming to bug Nana. So I guess he's got his own, his own characters that he's going to be having jokes with and interactions with, which actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it, and how you could have characters like tied to some form of just interactions with the characters without it just being brand new. Because obviously, Pork is not, she's from Kate Bat. She's not from this area. Like, it took them a whole week of traveling to get to this place, so it's got to be pretty far. And she's not going to know anybody. Obviously, Ranga and Tonkachi were on the island the whole time, so they're not going to know anybody. So any characters being introduced would otherwise be strangers. We had no idea about them. They would probably always have that question of if they're, could this be an enemy? Could this be, someone working with them? Because there's always going to be one of those characters in the beginning of somebody that pretends that you're your ally, but they're actually trying to stab the main cast in the back. I'm just assuming so. There's usually just one of those scummy guys that they run into. But with this, it looks like this girl is pretty friendly with Nana. Like, she's even kind of like messing around with him, trying to get him to buy her dinner and stuff. So I'm guessing that anything between them would be like just kind of casual work associates, maybe a little bit friendlier. I'm hoping so. None of these girls look evil or bad, so I'd be appreciative if we can have just a couple allies like that early on. So thumbs up on that one, and fingers crossed. I like these new, happier characters that we can probably have, again, more comedic ways. Because right now, the thing about Nana I do like is I like that he seems to kind of want to impress. Like, if you put him in a situation where they're in a scenario like they're just at dinner, and you have Tonkachi in them, maybe want to hype up Nana, because Nana said he could drink. Maybe, like, this girl knows he can't, and you could have it seem like she makes a joke, and then Tonkachi, like, he's gonna be like, I don't want to drink, but Tonkachi, like, hypes him up, and he wants to impress his junior, so I can just imagine the scene now, because I know this guy's comedy, and it would just be a really unfortunate set of events that this guy's, like, put into motion. Because you don't get a lot of ongoing jokes, I think, in terms of just the way that it can progress from a character like that. But this guy was introduced with a gag that's actually really funny, and it can actually be played out in a lot of really good situations. And I imagine eventually it could be used in, like, maybe more of an emotional thing, because he can fight, so he'd probably want to, show off to them in a battle, and maybe you could get some, like, really good character moment of him wanting to be, wanting to demonstrate his position as their senior. Because we don't know where he stacks up with Tonkachi in strength. I would assume he's stronger than Tonkachi, but, we don't know entirely. So it would be really cool to see, something like that from a character on something introduced as a gag. So, I like thinking about stuff in early parts in the series. That's one of the things I like about Build King versus, like, a lot of other brand new series, because usually when you get into a series, it's hard to work up ideas if you don't have, pre-existing stuff, unless you're just, taking shots in the dark. But there's already interesting interactions in ways that, like, that have been started or established in Build King already that I can't think of, okay, well, is this a future thing going to happen? It's like how when the shovel was mentioned, like, was it in chapter 6, was it 6 or 7? I think it was 7. I was like, well, okay, this thing has to have some significance. This could be really important. Something's important about the fact that the house piece they had named 2x4. You notice extra pieces that they're able to that are already being foreshadowed and hyped, and with the world building that this guy has, I think that really comes into play a lot with it, is he knows how to put something in there for you to kind of question, while at the same time, more casual stuff like jokes with Nana and Ranga and Tonkachi. Because, again, I can just imagine the scene of he's just caught in a spot of, do I want to not look cool in front of these guys, or do I want to just take the risk? Because we already saw that he was willing to do that at one point. and this got completely screwed over. He and having to pay all that money. And right now, he definitely seems like a little bit more of a comedic character, probably just in position just to show his side of things. I actually kind of like that because he's still pretty low, I would imagine, on like the building totem pole. So he's definitely gonna have older people in him that are messing with him. I mean, he's lucky enough that it's this like 7.5 foot tall, 8 foot tall chick that he is at breast level, and even as a guy as tall as him, his is not that bad of getting picked on if this is like his level of harassment at work. But I do like stuff like that. He's got like the Kopu guy, or sorry, I meant as in I like stuff like it has of it having funny interactions between characters like that he had set up. Because usually when you have a character like him introduced, you don't end up seeing who his adjacent people are so early. We already have this Kopu guy, this little funny dude, and then this tall chick that seems to like to mess with him a little bit. But at the end of the chapter, what I thought was really intriguing, because there's a part where they're like, okay, there's I had to clarify, I had to give context to what I was saying. It's like, oh, I might have set myself up to sound real sus, but luckily I had to clarify it. Talking about the end of the chapter when they're like, okay, this is a building for general construction methods. I'm guessing that's way more like, way more kind of like what Ranga would do or what Court could do, where it's way more grounded at the base builder level, like designs and like advancing structures or something. Whereas at the end they said they're going to go to the vigor methods of construction, and given the names of the tools and how they work, I'm guessing this is going to be where all the kind of fighter people within their class are. Because in just as a comparison, in Toriko there were the gourmet food hunters. Those were like the guys who were fighters, and they had to fight against monsters and stuff in order to get these get ingredients for the chefs. And there were chefs that could fight, but there are also chefs that couldn't really fight. And I think that's my guess is what the general construction kind of group is going to be way more kind of directed at, where these guys are going to be these are going to all be the power level dudes. And the designs at the end are really cool. And obviously I'm not gonna take clear note of the short muscular guy with the mask on that directed the main character to where the school was, and then had that ominous panel looking at him. The split on that is either going to be he's gonna be one of like the instructors there, or maybe he's like a secret bad guy for the future, or could be the first bad guy. I don't know. I feel like the fact that he's kind of silly looking, I would lean way more towards like instructor, but who knows exactly what it is. And then at the end they go to like the the bigger methods of construction. You see all these other characters, and I like some of these designs. Like this is, I'm guessing, gonna be the opening to an age-old classic where you have like some rude guy disrespecting the main character, and then the main character gets to humble him. One of those tropes I never get tired of. Just the first time the main character gets to tell somebody to put some respect on his name, and then just bops him. But some of these guys look really cool. The dude with the mask looks interesting, but I don't know. I don't think he's as hype as like the guy at the front, the closest to the view on the left. He looks like some form of like beast dude. And then he's got like this like lug nut crown. The big one that I definitely want to take note of. In the center, you see that guy with the bandana, and he's got he's looking away. He's near the middle. His eyes are shadowed. I'm guessing he's gonna be like a bigger deal character. I like his hair too. Like he's got like these weird, they're almost kind of like flat dreads. I don't really know what it'd be. It's kind of like if you look at Zero's hair from Fairy Tail. His hair is like, I would imagine, this weird draping kind of thing. Like it would feel like cloth, because it's just in those strips very accurately and very precisely. And that's what I kind of see in this guy's hair too. It looks really cool though, but then his general design I think looks neat. We got a lot of really cool designs this chapter. And that one where it shows like all the people in Build On, that one is, we don't know who out of that is really going to end up being a character, because those are, silhouettes don't always mean this is an exact, as well as at that point, you don't even know if one of these characters actually exists, and it's just something that, the author drew at the time. The only one I'm hoping for sure is that dude on the shovel. But the chapter ends with, Tonkaichi wanting to be all nice to them. He's like, all right, how's it going, everybody? Well, let's all work good together. But Ranga and and Cork look like they are aware of you know the vibe in the room. They can read the tone, whereas Tonkatchi doesn't seem to really care because he's just a happy little guy for the most part. Anytime he doesn't have to like actually you know flex on somebody, he just seems like a little goofy dude. But these guys, I would guess the way that I kind of like immediately thought of this scene is like if you imagine way back in Naruto during the Chunin exams and you enter the room with all the other ninja. Remember that was like right before Kabuto had the ninja info cards. But that kind of tone, it's like yeah, a room full of murderers. And really, when you think about it, like all those ninjas are trained killers. They're all trained to kill people. That's when it came down to the base root of things. And Naruto being like himself, and for the most part a happier tone, and then it's kind of like, oh yeah, assassins and mercenaries. Okay, that's really how I felt about this. I was really happy, and it's not that before anyone says like I know Naruto didn't invent everything. It is funny just in the way that I immediately thought of this, just because these guys, as far as we know, could all just be as crazy and dangerous. We don't know the full extent because if these are the dudes are always fighting like monsters and natural disasters, they're gonna obviously like they're gonna be weird and they're gonna I would imagine be very aggressive. The one that I'm hoping though, again, I hope that dude in the middle turned away. Again, the shading around the eye, his design looks a little cooler than the other characters. I'm hoping he becomes like an actual character in like associate the main cast, or at least some form of like adversary. I don't know. Either way, comment below. I had a lot of fun talking about this chapter though. Again, that's one of the reasons I really like about Build King, and I'm glad more people are giving it a chance. I've seen people have been slowly taking more interest recently, so I'm glad that the series is getting at least somewhere. And yeah, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Rather than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.